Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I'll give it to someone special. How many times should we play that this week? Every first musical break? Get it inside the chat. How many times should we play Wham this week? But first, before we get into Epstein, a special message from Triple H from the White House.
All right, we are outside of the White House, waiting just to go into the Oval Office to meet with the president. People asking, what do you do during the holidays to stay in shape, to get stronger, to be healthy? The thing is, I think if you're just trying to figure that out, enjoy your holidays. Enjoy the holiday season. Take time, spend it with your families, do whatever it is to make you have a good time. But do something active. It can be simple.
What I would recommend is not only just through January, but through the rest of the year, focus on every single day doing some sort of aerobic activity. I thought that was only going to be Triple H. 10 to 15 minutes. If it's push-ups, pull-ups, whatever it is, make sure you're staying healthy and active. We know we're behind screens all day long. We know we're not in the gym enough, but go out and make it a responsibility to yourself to become healthier in 2026. Keep it all the way to December next year.
Don't tell me what to do.
Just do something. Get moving. If America just gets moving, we're all going to be
That's
stronger.
right,
we're all going to be healthier. We're all going to be in way better shape next year.
Look at that. Stream of consciousness right there, my friends. Oh, my goodness. Okay, Bill Clinton. Can we see this on here? I think we moved this. To here. Statement from Angel Urena. Nailed it. Spokesperson for former President Bill Clinton on the Epstein Files. Here we go, folks. It's a lot to read. Will Mr. Rotella be able to do it? Welcome in, Marty. Nice to see you. Westy Dog, welcome in. Nice to see you. I think I saw Elite Domerkami Crusher. Welcome in, everybody. Nice to see you tonight. All right, here we go. Statement. I got it wrong on the second word. The Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes a clear legal duty on the U.S. Department of Justice to produce the full and complete record the public demands and deserves. However, what the Department of Justice has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear. Someone or something is being protected. From Bill Clinton. We do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this. We need no such protection. If someone's being protected, why don't you just let us know, Bill? You were there all the time. Accordingly, we called on President Trump to direct Attorney General Pam Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. You want more? We want all 17,000 pictures that they have. This includes, without limitation, any records that may exist and are subject to disclosure under the Act. Public Law 119 to 38, enacted November 19th, 2025, including grand jury transcripts, interview notes, photographs, and findings by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, as referred under oath to Congress by President Trump's first-term Attorney General. Refusal to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion the Department of Justice actions to date are not about transparency, but about insinuation, using selective releases to imply wrongdoing about individuals who have already been repeatedly cleared by the very same Department of Justice over many years. Yeah. Under presidents and attorneys generals of both parties. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why that happened. Let's go watch Todd Blanche.
Go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Slick Willie wants everybody to go down. I love it.
This Sunday, document dispute. Lawmakers accuse the Justice Department of withholding thousands of documents tied to the investigation of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Let's get into
I
it.
expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks.
It is an incomplete release with too many redactions.
I'll talk exclusively to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Plus, reality check. President Trump promises his policies will boost the economy.
We're not going to watch that part.
As concerns grow over rising costs.
And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress.
While he adds his name to a Washington landmark, and his chief of staff reveals a more candid view from inside the West Wing. And on the brink,
the Trump-Kennedy Center
doesn't rule out war with Venezuela as military pressure mounts.
They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
And the deadly strikes against alleged drug boats continue.
There's no doubt in my mind that we have the legal authority to blow up these boats.
It's a war that's being conducted on presidential say-so, behind closed doors.
I'll talk to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and
we
Democratic
will definitely
Senator
not be
Tim
watching
Kaine
that.
of Virginia. Joining me for insight and analysis are NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake, Republican strategist Sarah Fagan, former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, and New York Times White House correspondent Tyler Pager.
Is that guy's eyes okay?
To Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Gus
From
joining
NBC
us. What's up,
News
Gus?
in
Welcome
Washington,
back. Nice to see you,
the
man.
longest running show in television history. This is Meet the Press with Kristen Welker.
Good Sunday morning. There are growing questions this morning about how the Justice Department is handling the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files.
It sucks!
After the DOJ released a trove of documents, lawmakers say it's only a fraction of what is required by the law. And joining me now is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Mr. Blanche, welcome to Meet the Press.
Good morning.
Thank you so much
Can
for
we
being here.
impeach
Let's
this
dive
guy
right
too?
in. The Epstein Files Transparency Act called for all files with limited exceptions to be released within 30 days. On Friday, the Justice Department released just a fraction of
Why did they send this guy to Meet the Press? Why don't we have Pam Bondi out here cleaning up her freaking mess?
Overall Epstein files. Why didn't the Justice Department meet that Friday
her
deadline?
8-month-old mess.
Good morning. So it's very simple and very clear. The statute also requires us to protect victims. And so the reason why we are still reviewing documents and still continuing our process
30 days, bro.
is simply that, to protect victims. So the same individuals that are out there complaining about the lack of documents that were produced on Friday are the same individuals.
Wait. Are these the documents that didn't exist 6 months ago? Are these those documents?
Individuals who apparently don't want us to protect victims. So we're going through a very methodical process with hundreds of lawyers looking at every single document and making sure that victims' names and any of the information from victims is protected and redacted, which is exactly what the Transparency Act expects. That's exactly what Attorney General Bondi expects. It's exactly what President Trump expects. So that's what we're doing.
Well, you're talking about protecting the victims. The law directed the Justice Department to, quote, release internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. That's the crux of what many of the victims or the survivors say they want to see. Why wasn't that information prioritized in the first release, Mr. Blanche?
Well, first of all, it was. And there are numerous documents released on Friday that address what you just quoted from the statute, that address internal communications within the Department of Justice and internal communications between law enforcement and the Department of Justice. But it's for the same reason, because many of those internal communications talk about victims. Many of those internal back and forth between prosecutors and law enforcement talk about victims and their stories. And that has to be redacted. And by the way, everybody expects us to redact that. So the same complaints.
Well, we didn't exactly expect you to redact everything that you did redact that came out the other day. I mean, there's multiple at hundreds of pictures that the whole thing is redacted.
Yesterday and even this morning from Democrats and from others screaming loudly from a hill about lack of production on Friday, imagine if we had released tons of information around victims. That would be the true crime. That would be the true wrong. And if anybody out there,
no, I think the pedophilia is the true crime.
The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing statements accusing Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, and myself of not doing our jobs. If they have an issue with me protecting victims, they know how to get a hold of me. But we're not going to stop doing it.
Well, let's talk about the redactions, which you raised. The Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not. And that's another trend that is just simply false. There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up.
Can we see the receipts on that, please?
And so when we hear concerns, whether it's photographs of women that we do not believe are victims or we didn't have information to show that they were victims, but we learned that there are concerns, of course we're taking that photograph down and we're going to address it if we need to redact.
The photograph he's talking about just happens to be one of Jeffrey Epstein's desk. So you see all these photos on the desk, and then inside the drawer there's more photos. So there's a book covering up a photo, but you do see President Trump's head in that photo. It's a little bit weird that that one gets taken away.
Faces or other information, we will, and then we'll put it back up. So we are in every way, shape, and form complying with the statute, which, by the way, is what President Trump has been asking us to do since before he was elected.
Ronny joining us. What's up, Ronny?
Hide in the Epstein Files. There never was. And even though there's repeated attempts by Democrats to paint him as being part of the Epstein saga, it's failing over and over again. And so you should not be surprised that the material that we released on Friday or the material that we're going to release over the next couple of weeks is exactly what the statute requires us to release, which is everything that we have from this case, with the exception of redacting personal information from victims and other statutes, privileges and things like that. Otherwise, everything's getting produced.
Mr. Blanchard, I want to follow.
M. Weil says, we'll get it all once Bonagino is back on Rumble. I mean, this has to be one of the reasons why Bonagino left, isn't it?
Follow up with you on what you just said. You were referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open.
See, that's what I'm talking about, that right there.
Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump.
I'm starting to think that it has something to do with President Trump.
You can see in that photo.
Let's see.
Be clear, to put a fine point.
That's the famous one with the Pope and Ghislaine Maxwell and them. There's not a lot of, maybe it's these ladies down here. But I mean, it's really weird. It's really, really weird that this one, the only one, let me add, that has President Trump in it gets taken down. That's really, really weird.
Point on it. Why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public, seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of
I'd
their
still
true
say
motivation.
weird.
But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me, and we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate it.
Are you saying that one or more of the women in one of the photos or several of the photos is a victim or a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why you took those files down? And will they be put back up?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We, of course, if we knew that, if we believed that that photograph contained a survivor, we wouldn't have put it up in the first place without redacting the faces. But notwithstanding what we believe, we don't have perfect information. And so when we hear from victims' rights groups about this type of photograph, we pull it down and investigate. We're still investigating that photo. The photo will go back up, and the only question is whether there will be redactions on the photo. And of course, if there are survivors in any of the photos, we will redact them as Congress expects us to do, as President Trump expects us to do, and as the Attorney General and Director Patel have directed the department to do.
It's Cardi B, says Shaka.
Let's delve more deeply into the redactions. Is any information about President Trump redacted in any of the files that have or will be released?
No. Not unless it's supposed to be redacted under the law, which means victim information.
Sounds like
or
a yes.
Any sort of privilege, like attorney-client privilege. But I have no reason to believe that the lawyers that were working on this case were talking about President Trump, because he had nothing to do with the Epstein files. He had nothing to do with the horrific crimes that Mr. Epstein committed. And so I don't expect there will be anything redacted. But the short answer is we are not redacting information.
I don't think he does either. For the record, I mean, obviously, I don't think President Trump has anything to do with this, but I do think, just like there were a lot of pictures that came, a lot of new pictures that we've seen of Bill Clinton, and we've seen a lot of old pictures of Bill Clinton, I bet that there's a lot of, or a few of, or a handful of new pictures that we've never seen of Trump with Epstein, too.
Information around President Trump, around any other individual involved with
I don't think that's a leak.
And that narrative, which is not based on fact at all, is completely false.
The White House has said that President Trump is
some embarrassing things
in the files. Can you guarantee that every mention and every photo of President Trump in the Epstein files will be released?
Yes. Yes, I mean, I've said it 3-4 times now. We've said it before, and President Trump has said it repeatedly since before he was elected. And since he was elected, all summer long, he said the same thing. I have nothing to hide. And so, of course, that's the case. But let me just make sure.
Well, actually, he called it a hoax inside the Oval Office, and he told that anyone that believes in it, he didn't want their support anymore.
Everybody understands something. To the extent that he is, quote, in the Epstein files, it's not because he had anything to do with the horrific crimes. Full stop. But yes, if President Trump is mentioned, if there's photographs that we have of President Trump or anybody else, they, of course, will be released with the exception of any victims or survivors that we've identified, which we will either not release that photograph if it's just a photograph of a survivor, or if we do release the photograph because there's other individuals in the picture, the survivor's face or her entire body in some cases will be redacted.
And we're talking about President Trump in relation to this. For months, he urged Republicans to stop pushing for the files to be released. He dismissed the Epstein files as a hoax. I want to play a little bit of what he has said about the Epstein
files. We remember it well. We don't need the update.
A big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats and some stupid Republicans.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. It's sordid, but
same
it's
answer that Bill Bill Gates
Democrat
gave.
Hoax that never ends.
Are the Epstein files a hoax, Mr. Blanche?
What President Trump is saying is not that the Epstein files are a hoax. It's this game that Democrats have been playing for the past 9 months around the Epstein files that is a complete and total hoax.
Well, and some Republicans pushing for the release, too. Some of the Republicans were pushing for the release, too. just to be clear.
Well, that's different. That's different. To be clear, releasing the files is not what President Trump has ever had an issue with. When he calls this a hoax, he's talking about the fact that there's this narrative out there that the Department of Justice is somehow hiding or protecting information about him, which is completely false, as evidenced by the fact that the Epstein Files existed for years and years and years, and you did not hear a peep out of a single Democrat for the past 4 years. And yet we're supposed to believe that, lo and behold, all of a sudden, out of the blue, Senator Schumer suddenly cares about the Epstein Files. That's the hoax. And that's the hoax that has existed for months and months and months.
The problem with this argument, yes, that's all true. But the problem with this argument is that the vast majority of the United States and the world wants to see this information. We've been asking for this information. Of course, the politicians have been hiding it for whatever reason, but we have been asking for it for years and years and years. I don't care that that politicians haven't brought it up. We want it.
This isn't about whether we would release or not release the Epstein Files. As a general matter, we do not release
Give me the files
of criminal investigations and prosecutions. Yeah. There's laws around that. There's laws that protect victims, that protect the innocent. So we're doing something here that is more transparent than we've done in any criminal investigation in the history of this country. Don't forget that.
In November, President Trump directed the Attorney General to investigate, speaking of investigations, high-profile Democrats with ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Is the Justice Department investigating only Democrats or everyone with a connection to Jeffrey Epstein?
So Jay Clayton, the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, which is the office that had the most recent Epstein case, is investigating pursuant to the communication from President Trump. And by the way, this department will always investigate anybody and anything that we learn about sex trafficking or any victim of horrible sex crimes that takes place. As proof of that, the Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, we have charged and we are prosecuting more child predators just in the first 10 months of this administration than the entire 4 years of the Biden administration. So this idea that that we're protecting or doing something wrong when it comes to protecting victims is not true.
Well, in the directive, President Trump singled out former President Bill Clinton. Of course, a number of photos of President Clinton were released Friday. A Clinton
Between this and Massey, I'll do an ad.
The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever. Let me ask you bluntly, is President Clinton under investigation?
I will never talk about ongoing criminal investigations, so I'm not going to answer that question. But let me address the second part of the quote
in my freaking life for anything.
Think about how patently absurd that position is. The idea that we have hundreds and hundreds of DOJ lawyers. These are not politicals. It's not me. It's not Attorney General Bondi looking at all of these files and determining whether they are responsive to the act. And we overcollected, by the way. We went out to all of our components and we said, give us any document that you think in any way, shape, or form is connected to the Epstein case. And that's what we're going through. So the idea that we are hiding something or there's something that we have hidden under a rock around President Trump or other Republicans is not only false, but it's obviously false for anybody that's intelligent enough to think about what we're doing.
Let me just put a fine point on this. Will the Justice Department bring any new charges against anyone based on the contents of these files?
I mean, literally anyone. Just anyone.
We have continued to investigate anybody associated with Jeffrey Epstein for years and years. We discussed this in our July memo,
welcome in.
And we continue. So the answer is, I don't know whether there'll be additional prosecutions. Based on the information that we had in July, based upon the information that I'm aware of now, we are not prepared to bring charges against anybody, but we are learning new information all the time. We learned the names of additional victims as recently as Wednesday of this week. Okay, so there's new names that we didn't have before that we ran across our database to understand whether they had ever met with law enforcement or ever talked to the FBI. And so we're always investigating. And so it would be premature and not fair for me to unilaterally say yes or no to what future prosecutions there may be.
Okay, Mr. Blanche, you talk about the reaction from Capitol Hill. Let me allow you to respond to some of it. Congressman Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, the authors of the Epstein bill, say the partial release of files failed to comply with the law. They say they are considering looking into the possibility of impeachment proceedings, contempt, even criminal referrals for obstruction of justice for DOJ officials.
I'd love that congressional hearing. Let's go.
Seriously?
Not even a little bit. Bring it on. We are doing everything we're supposed to be doing to comply with this statute. And Congressman Massie and these other congressmen that are coming out speaking negatively about Director Patel and the Attorney General have no idea what they're talking about. They know the work. Well,
I've always said that,
they know
but
what
come
we're
on.
doing to protect victims. I mean, just think about what we're doing. You're talking about 1 million or so pages of documents. Virtually all of them contain victim information. So listen, the idea that Attorney General Bondi would ever let a single piece of paper go out of this department that contains victim information is something they know we won't do. And the fact that they're threatening to...
But she also said that there's nothing else in the files like 3 months ago.
...impeach her for protecting victims is a reflection of where their head's at. It's not a reflection of this department. We are complying with the statute. We will continue to comply with the statute. And if by complying with the statute, we don't produce everything on Friday, we produce things next week and the week after, that's still compliance with the statute. There is well-settled law, as they should know, that in a case like this, where we're required to produce within a certain amount of time...
What, we don't want to ruin the pedophiles' Christmas?
But also comply with other laws like redacting information that very
this seems
much
like the perfect time to drop it.
Trumps some deadline in the statute.
All right, couple more, and we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk to the extent it needs to. But just let me talk about the security issue. At the time that I met Ms. Maxwell, there was a tremendous amount of scrutiny and publicity towards her. And the institution she was in, she was suffering numerous threats against her life. So the BOP is not only responsible...
Why would I give a shit about that?
For putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety.
Oh, let's make sure the prisoners feel happy.
She's in federal prison. She was in federal prison before. She's in federal prison now. She's doing 20 years because she was convicted. And the fact that she was moved, she might be moved to another institution tomorrow if security requires it. And that's true of any federal inmate across this country.
But as you know, survivors were outraged by all of this, especially the fact that she was moved.
Weird.
Why talk to Ghislaine Maxwell and not the survivors, Mr. Blanche?
What you just said is completely false. We will talk to any survivor at any time, which is something that we have
you
said
talked to them?
From day one.
But have you talked to them?
Of course. The attorney, yes, the attorney, first of all, they have to want to speak with us.
Howdy, Howie, Lee Domer, Wally, nice to see you.
The Victims' Rights Group as recently as Thursday. Okay, and if folks want to talk to us next week or the week after or in the coming months, they know how to get a hold of us, and we will always talk to survivors and victims' families. But just backing up to your question about Ms. Maxwell, nobody ever talked to her. Nobody ever asked her questions about what she knew. So when she said that she had something she wanted to say, notwithstanding the fact she had been convicted, of course we went and talked to her. Imagine if we didn't talk to her. Imagine if she had said, I have a story to tell and I would like to talk to the government. And I said, no. The same outrage would be directed at this department for not speaking with her. So we're trying to do our job here, and we are doing our job here. But any victim that wants to talk to the FBI, that wants to talk to the Department of Justice, they can call us anytime.
Let me ask you, President Trump in September urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute former FBI Director James Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Senator Adam Schiff, saying in a social media post that was supposed to be private, quote, "They're all guilty as hell." Comey was indicted 5 days later. Does President Trump speak to you or to the Attorney General directly about individual criminal cases and investigations, Mr. Blanche?
I will never talk about the communications I have with President Trump, and I don't expect Attorney General Bondi will either. However, when it comes to the prosecutions that this department is undertaking, we are following the facts and the law, period. And so with the case of James Comey, and he was indicted, the case was then dismissed by a judge because of an appointments issue. We were already investigating, which was very much available to the public at the time that President Trump sent that note. And so the fact that we continue to investigate and ultimately he was indicted is not a reflection of what President Trump put in that truth. It's a reflection of the work that we're doing and have been doing long before September.
Just very quickly, career prosecutor Eric Siebert was fired after refusing to prosecute these cases against James Comey. He was replaced by Lindsay Halligan, of course, the president's former personal lawyer who doesn't have prosecutorial experience.
No more questions on Epstein?
Was found to be unconstitutionally appointed. And the cases were thrown out, as you say. To be clear, is the Justice Department taking directions about who to prosecute from President Trump?
Well, I mean, he has to say no to that.
No, of course we're not. And also, Mr. Siebert wasn't fired because he refused to bring cases. He resigned, okay? And so, and this narrative out there that somehow it was because of James Comey, it was because of Letitia James. No, that's not true at all. And Ms. Halligan went in there and did a great job. She's still doing a great job as our U.S. attorney in the EDVA. And you had a local judge rule that she was not validly appointed. We filed an appeal in that case. I expect that eventually, when the appellate courts looks at this issue, we'll win that issue.
All right, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're doing a great job, Toddy. Can someone get me a hot toddy? Oh. Whatever. I want to keep pressing for this forever and ever and ever. I don't care how long we need to press. I want everything. We have to keep pressing. This is a topic that is never, ever going to go away in the world. Okay. Let's do a quick ad coming up next. 12 minutes of Thomas Massey and Rohana on Face the Nation over the weekend. Let's do a quick ad.
Everybody's got a price.
Boom! Let's sell you some coffee. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth, medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. They wrote that, not me. Go to 7075coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go buy some coffee, everybody. How much you think we made on that? How much you think we made on that? Little Philly. Oh, people making big money bets. No, it's a low baller. $1.59, everybody. But it does all add up at the end of the month. $1.59. Mr. Rotella, back to you inside the Dome Theater.
Go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
They lowballed us.
A treat.
Into passing the bill to release these documents, Republican Thomas Massie, who's in Garrison, Kentucky, and Democrat Ro Khanna, who joins us this morning from Palo Alto, California. It's good to have both of you here. I want to start with you, Congressman Massie, because in these past 48 hours, we have seen the Justice Department acknowledge it's an incomplete release, but they have put out more than 13,000 files. They say more will come.
Illy Dumber Wokepotamus says they spent all the ad money on golden spoons.
This isn't everything you asked for just yet.
Jerks.
But would you acknowledge that they are complying with the spirit, if not the intent?
They are not
of your
complying
law?
with the spirit.
No, they're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law. It's very troubling, the posture that they've taken. And I won't be satisfied until the survivors are satisfied. You know, I said in the hours leading up to this release that we will know if they are complying if they implicate any of the other criminals that are involved the suspects that are involved. The witnesses, the victims themselves have given to the FBI, and they've never been mentioned.
Well, there are some disclosures in here that seem new. Congressman Khanna, the documents confirm that the FBI received a complaint about Jeffrey Epstein.
To be straightforward, little Philly, the ad reads are worth more, but it's my job to get people inside the dome to see them. So I'm, Rumble pays me based on how many people are watching right now. So, there were some really nice ad reads the week going up to Christmas. The fight was a nice payment. The stakes was a nice payment. So every now and then they do throw those ones in there that pay more regularly. But it's always up to me to make sure that people are inside the dome to hear them. So I take responsibility for the low payment.
Back in 1996, but the woman whose name is Maria Farmer, who made that complaint, said federal officials failed to follow up. She said the disclosure makes her feel redeemed and that this was one of the best days of her life to see these documents made public. What action do you want taken around a case like this?
But the dome is building nicely again right now.
That was the single most important disclosure of what we got. I know Maria's sister. She sounded the alarm in 1996. She complained to the FBI. The problem is that Epstein was so connected with law enforcement and powerful politicians, the FBI did nothing for a decade. Frankly, she deserves compensation. She deserves an explanation. But the broader point is, Blanche was on this morning saying that Massie and I have a problem that it's taking too long. That's not the problem.
What's up, 5B
The problem
Corey?
is this was a slap in the face of survivors. What do they want? They want to know who are the rich and powerful men who visited Epstein's rape island and covered up the abuse. And the key documents that our law basically said needed to be released, the 60-count indictment that actually implicates a lot of these people, and the prosecution memo were not released. It's not about the timeline. It's about the selective concealment.
Well, yet. Right? The Deputy Attorney General
MFT2 invested $20.
Ely Domer MFT, thank you so much, my friend, with a $20 dome investment. A $20 dome investment is a very fine dome investment. MFT says, to the clause, MFT. Thank you so much, my friend. Ballyho.
There are
Ballyho's in the chat for
that
MFT.
will be made. You believe that they will not release that particular part? I mean, you did give them some leeway for redactions.
Well, first of all, the redactions were excessive, and even Harvard law professors who have looked at that have said you can't redact internal communications, you can't redact workforce product, and the courts are going to find that these were excessive. But my point, and I'm sure Congressman Massie can elaborate, is that we want the files out. So if our sounding the alarm on what is missing is going to help them get those files out, fine. But this shouldn't be a big document up. There's a pretty simple point. Who raped these young girls? Who covered it up? And why are they getting away with it?
So you're saying specific things regarding the indictment. Congressman Massey, I saw in a video that you posted, you had a very specific benchmark of success.
It's lemon water, Hungry Planet.
You said there are at least 20 men accused of sex crimes known to the FBI. How do you know that number? And do you know those names?
Yeah, the survivors' lawyers have told me those numbers, and they've described their professions in general. But they've only given me one of those names, and I mentioned that in a congressional hearing, Jess Staley. So I searched these documents. I didn't see Jess Staley's name, nor did I see 19 other names. And here's why we shouldn't be optimistic that Blanche or Bondi are going to release these things. They sent a 6-page memo to Congress and said they cited pre-existing laws as reasons that they weren't going to follow our law. For instance, our law requires them to release information regardless of embarrassment, but they are trying to say that a previous law prevails when it doesn't. Common sense says it doesn't. The Privacy Act doesn't protect them from that. And then also, as Rose said, internal communications, they're using a FOIA standard that doesn't apply because our law already says they have to give us internal communications.
In terms of the gentleman there you referenced as accused, I mean, being in the document doesn't necessarily prove criminal behavior, right? And in terms of the redactions, what the Deputy Attorney General said is that they were abiding by your law, and also a judge in New York had ordered them to listen to victims. So they're claiming that information that they had initially even published Friday, they had to pull down because they were trying to protect victims. You don't sound convinced that they are abiding by this intent.
No, they are not abiding, and all 3 judges who released the grand jury material said that our law trumps the prior law. That's just common sense, Law School 101. Yet Todd Blanche is using
Why was there ever a law for privacy when it came to this?
Different theory that wouldn't survive first contact with any court, which is he's trying to say that prior laws override our law. That's not the way this works.
Okay, what are you going to do about it to force them to comply? I mean, can you do anything?
Oh, absolutely. Look, people have talked about, and by the way, Todd Blanche is the face of this, but it's really the Attorney General's office, Pam Bondi, who is responsible. And there are several ways to get at this. Some take longer, some are shorter. The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these victims is to bring inherent contempt against Pam Bondi. And that doesn't require going through the courts. And give her, and basically Ro Khanna and I are talking about and drafting that right now.
Okay, well, I mean, on another network this morning, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine.
Put a 1 inside the chat if you would like to impeach Pam Bondi. Put a 2 inside the chat if you would not.
Kaine said impeachment or contempt, it is premature, Congressman Khanna. And the Deputy Attorney General said, bring it on. They don't seem to be taking this very seriously. And if you just don't have the math in the Senate, including at least now this Democratic senator not being convinced, doesn't that sort of show that you're at the limit of pressure?
No, we only need the House for inherent contempt, and we're building a bipartisan coalition, and it would fine Pam Bondi for every day that she's not releasing these documents. I'll tell you why I've talked to the survivors, why this is such a slap in the face. One of the survivors said they released her name accidentally, but they still have not released the FBI file about the people who abused her at her request. And the problem here is that there are rich and powerful people. We all know this. There are 1,200 victims. They're rich and powerful people who either engaged in this abuse, covered it up, or were on this island. And what the American people want to know is, who are these people? And instead of holding them accountable, Pam Bondi is breaking the law. And this is the corrupt system, the Epstein class that people are sick of. So I believe we're going to get bipartisan support in holding her accountable, and a committee of Congress should determine whether these redactions are justified or not.
Sometime in January when you all come back, I assume that'll happen. I want to ask you, though, Congressman Khanna.
It's always next year.
There have been images released in the past 48 hours. Some of them include former President Bill Clinton. There's at least one.
That's right. Lala says, sounds to me like it's time for a strongly worded letter. That's right, Lala.
Image of Donald Trump. I should say neither man has been accused of any wrongdoing related to Epstein, though they clearly knew him. But since Friday's publication, we're showing the image here now. One of the pictures was pulled down. There were 15 images total that were then redacted from the DOJ website.
I'm ready to blow it all up.
It's kind of hard to see, but it's an open drawer with a photo of President Trump. Why do you think that was pulled down? Because the Deputy Attorney General says
that's right,
this was victims saying that their privacy or somehow their integrity was being compromised by having that image published.
Well, I'm less concerned about that photo. I don't know the facts. My concern is the major documents that we know are out there that haven't been released. The 60-count indictment that shows massive financial fraud and foreign interference, the prosecution memo. And look, they put out these Bill Clinton pictures. Well, they're allegations that they're foreign governments that potentially were involved. And that all needs to come out. And it needs to come out in the indictments. It needs to come out in the prosecution memos. But the reality is they put out these pictures for Bill Clinton. Fine, put it all out, but don't distract from the fundamental issue, which is who are these powerful people who visited the Rape Island? I mean, there are 1,200 victims. It defies common sense that it was just Epstein and Maxwell, and they're hiding something. And you know why the American people are so upset? My X account had MAGA supporters supporting me for the first time, saying, you know, Pam Bondi whiffed, according to Susan Wiles. She is breaking the law. She needs to be held accountable.
You're referring to the Vanity Fair quote that the chief of staff gave saying the whiffed, and she said that Pam Bondi gave them binders full of nothingness, and then when it came to the client list, she said it was on her desk. There is no client list, quote, and it sure as hell wasn't on her desk. Do you see that as an acknowledgement here, though, that the politics have overtaken the substance?
No, for us, it's about the survivors. And if you look at Thomas Massie and my comments the morning of the release, we were giving Blanche the benefit of the doubt. We said, if it's not all there, fine, just get the information out. It's when the survivors said that this is an insult, this is a slap in their face, that we aren't getting the truth about who these men were on Rape Island, that we started sounding the alarm. And this is more documents of nothingness. And I guess the question the American people have, even to me, is the system so corrupt? Is the system so corrupt that Thomas Massie and you defy the odds, pass a bill through a discharge petition, get the Senate, get the president to sign it, and still these rich and powerful people are being protected? Who has this kind of hold on our government? What are they hiding? Why are they not releasing this?
Well, you want, what, people involved in those initial investigations down in Florida?
I want everything.
Prosecuted?
I want everything. Everything and everyone.
I want the information out, which was in that prosecution memo that Acosta disregarded. That
Democrat,
were in those
Republican, whatever.
There were 60 counts against Epstein. Only 2 counts were prosecuted. I want to know who were these other people who were on the Epstein's Rape Island? Who were the people who saw young girls being paraded around at parties, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and didn't say anything? And why is it so hard when there's a law requiring these names to come out? What we're seeing is survivors' names come out, but not the men who abused them. And instead of holding elites accountable, Pam Bondi is breaking the law.
Well, we will see when you gentlemen come back to work sometime in January what your next measures are. It sounds like you've made it clear you're moving action against the Attorney General. Thank you both for your reaction today.
Do we really need Congress to go home for Christmas? Does our government really need time off for Christmas? Well, I want to go see the Christmas lights. Oh my God, these people, they're killing me. They're killing me, guys. 5D Corey says, I hope there's a rope-a-doping everyone to get maximum eyes on this. The 5D chess continues. When we return, let's do JD Vance. I don't think we're gonna have time for Donald Trump Jr. That's fine. I wanted to do Mickey. Is it Mickey or Nikki? Mickey Minaj. I think she's got giant ears on her head. Nicki Minaj, I wanted to do her. We're deleting Donald Trump Jr. We're going to do JD Vance at AmFest, their main event, our main event. But before then, some horrible Christmas music. You're welcome.